Over the past few years, I've found that intermittent fasting has been a great tool for keeping in shape, and I'm often asked how I do it. That's why I'm thrilled to introduce you to this season's sponsor, the Simple Life app. They are a clinically proven weight loss tool that has helped millions of users lose millions of pounds. Their method doesn't involve restrictive dieting. You simply take the test, and Simple will create a personalized fasting and nutrition plan for you to hit your health goals. To take the test, go to simple.life/Amanda. That's simple.life/Amanda. And as an added bonus, you can use the code Amanda at checkout for an amazing 70% off your plan. Today, I'm going on a style journey with the fabulously fluid fashion designer and icon that is Harris Reed. Hello and welcome, Harris.
Hi, gorgeous. How are you?
I am so thrilled to have you here. I dressed up for you in my
I'm
most
stealing this top.
fluid.
I'm stealing it.
Do you know what? Nothing would give me more pleasure than to see you in this top.
Deal.
I think I might have a second one. And if I do, it's yours.
Deal.
Now, I'd like to start by quoting a paragraph from your beautiful and insightful book, Fluid. So bear with me. Fluidity in fashion is not just a section in a department store. Fluidity isn't created by an entrance light flashing unisex in some ugly bubble font, wedged between the hyper-stereotypical men's section and straight-leg jeans and flannels, and the women's section with lingerie and skirts. Fluidity is a way of being, a way of expressing yourself authentically, and a way of holding yourself in the purest and highest regard. It's not rooted in gender, and certainly not rooted in unisex clothes.
Oh, it's weird to hear someone read it back to you.
But it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's absolutely beautiful. And I know from my research that you spent hours and hours and hours dictating your thoughts on the Eurostyle.
I know, sorry to everyone on the Eurostar. I feel like I must have been so annoying. I'd be like, and chapter 3, go back, redo. Everyone's like, oh my God, can he fucking stop? But yeah, sorry.
But talk to me.
Yeah.
In your dreams, what would the retail landscape look like
We're
in
really
terms
talking
of
dreams now.
gender fluid? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be the fact that it wouldn't be so like segregated by gender, by category. I think it's hard because I've had a lot of conversations, and I don't want to like shout out department stores that have explained to me why, there's a women's floor, why there's a men's floor, especially as well with, the different kind of people that come in during the summer into London that are maybe from a different, culture or background that wouldn't feel comfortable shopping alongside someone of the opposite gender. So I've heard all the kind of different arguments for why it doesn't exist. I think for me, it it just I can't fully understand even hearing all this kind of feedback why it doesn't, because when I look at the people that I dress, I look at my friends, I look at my partner's friends, like everyone's grabbing a blazer from someone's wardrobe, a blouse, maybe your husband's gonna grab that blouse off you. Like it's such a more fluid way that the customer's actually shopping. So I don't understand why we haven't been able to kind of be like, okay, fine, we can respect obviously cultural backgrounds, we can respect people, maybe wanting to have their own spaces so they don't have to be alongside a gender if it disaligns with them culturally. But I just think like it's 2025. We need to kind of move on to the space where we are all shopping much more fluidly. I think when I talk to a lot of people on like online platforms, they say that they have like their men's clients, sometimes even 60% some seasons buying other pieces that are in the women's category. So I think, people are just scared of change. And I also know that the behind the scenes actually costs quite a bit of money to change the kind of store fronts and the different, I'm not a web guy, so I'm going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about here, but all these kind of back of house details that they're like, yeah, well, it costs 100K. We don't really want to do that right now. Fashion's in a tight spot, like so many people know right now. We don't want to put the investment there. Let's just put a blanket term on a campaign where a guy and a girl are wearing the same thing. So I think there's a lot of kind of blanketing over this idea of fluidity, where actually like not a lot of people are doing the kind of like legwork to really go for it. And trust me, also like even now working at a French fashion house, like it's complicated because it is, a major financial investment, and also it's a risk at a time where right now people are trying to, look at how many movies are coming out that are the same thing, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everyone's trying to take the more safe route, and I get that, but people just don't want to take a chance.
But how does that reflect in terms of your own business model?
Yeah. I think for me with the Harris Reed brand, I've been super fortunate that This is kind of going back, but back in the day, I worked for the iconic Kelly Catrone, who's big in fashion PR. I met her at a book signing. I said I was 18 when I was 15. I worked with her in New York, like doing front of house at, Nicholas K, Mara Hoffman, Jeremy Scott. And I watched so many designers kind of do some of them the more classic business model, some of them a bit more of a different business model. And without saying names, I think I quickly learned that for the Harris Reed brand, I never in the first 10 years wanted a blazer on a rack. I was like, that is not going to be the way forward for my brand, for my messaging. The whole brand started from me literally having nothing to wear on a night out. And, the closest thing would have been maybe Alessandro because he was just at Gucci at that moment. But I did not have the money that I now have to buy those pieces. So I remember kind of making this, I guess you could say, I'm doing air quotes here if you can't see me, fluid kind of outfit that really I posted on Instagram, and that's kind of what took everything off. But I kind of loved that it had, it was made for my body, to my measurements, to my kind of being. And so I've been able for the past 6, 7 years of having Harris Reed to basically be made to measure. So for me, it's great because we can be doing a princess's gown, but at the same time, I'm doing a high profile queer icon that I can't say, in New York, or I'm doing, a mix between, someone's world tour, but then also doing someone's 50th wedding anniversary party. So I love with my own brand that we really get to kind of gender never is kind of part of the conversation, because it's just about what do you love and what do you adore. And most of the things that I'm putting in, again, air quotes, more traditional men in are a bit more flamboyant. They're sparkly. They're things that would be deemed by the public eye as quite feminine, but I don't see it that way. I'm like, if you want to wear pink, if you want to wear Swarovski, if you want to wear feathers, it's just you being you. So I've been very fortunate, I think, in that landscape, that I didn't have to put something on a rack in a space in a gendered section. I could always be like, this is the brand, come be a part of it, come take part of it. And just kind of worked.
So you're custom only for Harris Reed, and being a designer that I
Yeah, of
am,
course.
I know that the fit complexity
Completely.
of going from male to female, female to male
100%.
is actually super complex.
Super complicated. Super, super complicated. And I
So
think,
chapeau to you.
well, I think also, thank you. Hats off as well, I think, to my incredible team, because I definitely put them through. Because, one day we'll have a client that comes in, this, 5'3". She's quite petite. The next day we have someone coming in, he's 6'7", and he's, very kind of almost voluptuous. And I think my team has always been super incredible about understanding the figure and understanding the body. And I think that's kind of a lost, dying craft in fashion. And again, I'm still making mistakes all the time. We still, even for fashion shows, our curve girl will drop out the night before because she books Fendi and flies away. And we're trying to refit on someone, with completely different proportions within, 14 hours. And I'll see it on the catwalk or whatever people want to call it, the runway. And I'll be like, oh, fuck, I could have done that better. So I'm not here being like, we're the creme de la creme of tailoring. We're not that at all. But for us, this obsession and this, I think, kind of catering to different bodies, I think is what's made us stand out, I think, in, I guess, our business. And again, a lot of people don't see the VICs, they see the VIPs. They don't see the very important customers, that's what keeps the business going. They see, someone running on stage, or Adele, singing in a dress or something.
You must have some awesome cutters. Do you use any sort of AI tools, any
No
CAD
AI.
tools?
We don't, for me, we're really quite tactile and hands-on. I think coming from St. Martin's into my own brand, everything I did there was literally cut, stick, paste with my hands. And even now we try doing ChatGPT. I mean, I use ChatGPT more for emails and kind of those kind of more technical payroll things like this. But for the design, I try to keep all of that quite hands off. I like that my team is all quite young, quite female led, quite queer led. And everyone's under the age of 35. So
Wow,
it's a lot of
lovely.
people that graduated, had so much potential, and we just was like, ready, set, we're having a meeting tomorrow with Adele. Like, it was like, we're just gonna kind of, I think it's also the way I came into fashion. Like, I just jumped straight in. It was like not ever this like, okay, let me have a couple years to get my feet. It was like, at uni, stapling things on the floor, gluing things on the floor. Oh, Solange needs this. Oh, Harry Styles needs that. Troye Sivan wants this. And just being like, I'm just going to make it up as I go and pretend I can pattern cut, pretend I can drape. And you can look at some of those beginning designs. And if you're a fashion critic, you can be like, oh, don't know if those seams are very aligned. Don't know if that. But you know what? I was having a fucking blast. And I was getting too close to the microphone, everyone. If you can't see me, get very excited when I talk. But
But bringing joy,
yeah.
which is what fashion should
What should we need?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so serious. Which I get, it's a business, and I now have employees with kids, and I have, visas that I'm sponsoring, and then it gets really real, and then you're like, oh, can I take as much risk? Can I be as I don't want to say political, but can I stand for something as much? Can I be super queer when, a massive part of my business is growing in the Middle East? And I've been very happy and very surprised by the support I've gotten as well from those clients that I would have, almost made assumptions that would maybe have an issue with the way that
Yeah.
I stand up for myself or for my brand. Sorry, going on a bit of a segue.
Now, I believe you're the youngest ever creative director of the French fashion house, Nina Ricci. Bravo.
Thank you.
And I just wondered, coming off that
Mhm.
conversation that
Yeah.
we've just had, what has it been? Are you like a kid in a candy box with the couture atelier at
Yeah.
your disposal? Or is it, I know the French ateliers can be a little bit more, I'm not
Traditional.
sure about that.
Yeah.
How has that been
Mhm.
coming from your wonderful London
Yeah.
atelier full of youthful can do,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yes, we
takes?
can. Yes, we
Yes, we
can.
can.
I mean, there's okay, so to what you've just asked, I think there's one bit which is it was just like the biggest honor. I think it was the biggest privilege as well because you go into almost 100 years of archive and of
Mm.
storytelling. And we have the original Avenue Montaigne building that faces the Dior building right in front of L'Avenue, the iconic restaurant. And every time I go to my office, it's on the corner and I'm like pinching myself. I'm like, where the fuck am I? Like how
Oh.
almost like how did I get here? But then kind of like think sometimes goodness for Instagram and you can scroll and be like, oh yeah, that's how because I was just sewing every single night when my friends are going out boozing it up. Again, still I boozed it up plenty, and my friends are also very talented. But I think it was both of these things because I felt super excited because I had the most skilled people in the world now to work with, that had 20, 30, 40 years of experience that have been at that house. But then the other side, which is I was even kind of talking to you before we started the podcast, which was like at Harris Reed, we would do a Met Gala look in 24 hours. Like, we've done that. I don't want to say for who, but we've done it. And with Nina Ricci, I remember the first meeting was like, okay, so when we do custom, it's 3 to 4 weeks lead time. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like that's not gonna work. Like that's kind of not. And so I think more these things, it's probably taken us the 2 years to get to the point where they understand the fluidity of how I work and that kind of quick, all right, I got here by being the person that can be called. We need a hat, we need a gown, we need a thing, and let's do it now. Still well made, still thought out, but this kind of old guard way of being like, oh, it's not going to happen. I'm like, no, it has to happen. But I think I've been so fortunate because the team was so willing to jump on board with my vision. I mean, even looking at that first show, we had a couple months to do, like, we were still deciding, like, at the brand, like, is it going to be more couture? Is it more ready to wear? I came into a house unlike, an Hermes or Dior that has the staple products that can't change, the bags, the shoes, the jacket shapes. We really didn't have an existing customer base
Mm.
anymore. It was very much just led by perfume. So for me, we were kind of rewriting the customer basis. So I was super fortunate that the team was like, sure, let's be colorful. Sure, let's be crazy. And, I think when you look at where we're now at like season 5, by after season 2, 3, we're like, oh, this is the customer. This is what people are buying. We kind of made a conscious decision to put our price point more demi-luxe and luxury, and that was huge for us, especially in America and in Asia. So I'm kind of going a bit
And
of a
you were
tangent.
very involved in all those
All of it.
decisions.
All of these decisions,
The
I felt
business
all the business
decisions.
decisions. So I think what's been really amazing is like I got into Nina Ricci exactly. I think it was 25, and I remember having an amazing team. I have an amazing president, Anna, who's extraordinary, and just I feel like they were really wanting me to be involved in where the business went, which I think a lot of other creative directors are like, all right, do your, creative pitch, do your
Mm.
color cards, have your meetings. But it was great because I think where we are now, it's what I want the brand to be. I was at the dry cleaners this morning and there was one of my dresses hanging up and they were all like, how the fuck do we clean this? Because it was like polka dot and it was with tulle and a bow. And I literally looked at them and I was like, good luck. Gotta go run to a fabulous podcast. But I think for me, that was always the goal that like with Harris Reed, it was that kind of once in a lifetime for my clients or that big, whether it's, Harry Styles on a world tour stage or it's, one of my closest clients who just had their 40th birthday party last weekend. And, for her, this was a big deal. So Nina Ricci was like, I want everyone to be, jumping on the tube, jumping on the bus, going out to a party. And it becomes this like accessible demi-luxe brand. But all of this said, I'm going back to your question. I think I was very fortunate to have a team that was like ready, set, go. But also, I think my very brazen American English kind of, I guess, who I am was also allowing me to be like, okay, well, things are changing. Either kind of jump on board or jump jump off ship
Yeah.
if you can. And we had some people that jumped off ship, and I think it was for the better. And, also we love France, but French law, it takes about 24 months to hire someone because the whole processes of that. So, this is also last show is the first show I've had a full team. I didn't have a communications team for a year. It was literally me doing the Instagram. So sorry to everyone who saw misspellings. I'm so dyslexic and dyspraxic. And I was there posting on Harris Reed, posting on Ricci. So we kind of have all these positions filled. So it's also nice that I'm like, okay, we have the full crew for this boat. We're doing a lot of like ship references, but
How exciting. And you're also doing loads of other collaborations, because
Yeah.
I read somewhere, or I heard you speaking about the fact that because you've chosen to do a different business model
Yeah.
for Harris Reed,
Yeah.
your brand, you're looking for beautiful collaborations, or not looking for, I'm sure you're approached 24 times a day. Which ones are you, do you have any coming up that you're really
Yeah,
excited about?
I think to your point, I think when I decided for Harris Reed, I was like, I don't want to take investment. I've seen way too many people burned by that thing. They take investment, they have a great season. After that season, the investor's like, why are you doing shows? Where are the jeans? Where are the t-shirts? And no offense to the jeans and the t-shirts, but that was never aligned with my
She
brand.
nods sagely.
No, because it's amazing. You have to build a business. But for me, it's like, I just couldn't do it any other way. So to your point, I've always been very open with my team, and anyone who asked me that, like, running a fashion company is fucking hard, especially right now. And shows cost anywhere from 150 to 3. I mean, it can cost way more, but for me, like, to 250, 300,000, twice a year. Thank God I'm not doing 4 times a year for my own brand. Finding that capital, finding that money, people being 90-day late on invoices. Also, when I used to work with retailers, the things that they don't tell people in uni that I wish people told is like, do not accept a 90-day payment period. Do not accept buy on return. Do not accept a 15% commission. Like, you are going to get that crap back. Like, not to say crap, but like, you're going to get this stuff back you can't sell. So I think for me, it was very much this thing where I was like, okay, I need to do clever partnerships. I need to do clever collaborations that also lead towards something. I've had, don't want to name names, but huge opportunities come from fast fashion brands that are like, one Instagram post 1 million, and we'll do 6 SKUs. And 1 million would have been amazing to have, into the brand going into show season where everyone's so late paying us. But you're like, okay, well then you get it. I mean, most people are like, oh, $1 million is amazing. That's gone in 3 months of having a company. But you're like, well, now I've ruined my reputation. So to your point, to your question, I think for me, I was always, trying to work with people that led towards something. I think I can't say too much, but home has been a huge new thing for the Harris Reed brand. I think a lot of these customers, when I'm going to their beautiful homes, they are like, oh, like, I saw your house. Would you design my living room? Would you do this? So I can't say names yet, but we're working a lot on a lot of home projects. I kind of can cheekily say I'm working with Fermental again, who I just absolutely adore. They're the wallpaper company. People don't know. They're also just such artists. And I worked with them on a show 2 seasons ago. I'm working with them. We've had such a big demand since that show of that wallpaper actually that was on the garments being for people's homes that we're going to start doing some projects together. I basically gave the whole thing away. But so we're going into a lot more home with the Harris Reed brand. And, even like for us, Misoma, the licensing we have in jewelry, like that is up 60% this year. And it's huge.
Fabulous, by the way.
Thank you.
Really.
But I think it was also, what for me was important is with the collaborations, and I'm talking too much. I'm sorry, everyone. If you're on your morning drive or having your coffee, just speed up. But, I think with the collaborations as well, it was also for me, not only the longevity of the brand of where we're going. So jewelry was a constant obsession. I'm dripping, if you can't see me, in all my Portobello Market finds. But that was a big part of the brand. But also it was a good touch point of entry. The cheapest piece, I think, is like 89 pounds, like $125. And, it's demi-fine, you have demi-precious stones, and like, to see people be able to have a little bit of Harris Reed, because obviously they can't potentially afford that 20,000 pound upcycled gown, like, was also a really big, moment for me. But, it gets hard because sometimes you do get approached by things, you need that money at that time, and you're like, this feels like it could work. You try it. I've definitely made mistakes. My father's always said you learn way more from your mistakes than your successes.
And that is so true.
And it's so true. I think, we learn from this.
And what would be your dream collaboration?
I would say like the dream collaborations for me is probably things that are just deep in that home section. Like, I'm really into nesting right now, like having me and my partner, like we're getting a dog soon. I'm all about him. We're getting a golden Labradoodle because he wanted more of a Labradoodle, bigger dog. He wanted a golden retriever, and I wanted more of a poodle. So we were like a golden Labradoodle was in between.
You've got the blend.
We're blending. And I also love to have red hair. I have red hair. He kind of has a mustache. A lot of them have these white mustaches. I don't know. It was that or like having a baby way too soon. So I was like, let's Start with the dog.
Start with the dog.
Start with the dog.
That sounds brilliant. Now, I mean, you have dressed everyone from Adele to Beyonce to to Harry Styles to everybody. I don't believe you've dressed our future queen, Princess Catherine.
No.
If she approached you to do some fabulous red carpet.
Oh, 100%. I think for me, the royal family is, someone was asking me, it was like, a journalist friend, but not for anything, just at dinner, was like, "Who would you wanna dress?" I was like, "The royal family, of course." Like, especially, like Kate, like, just she's, for me, the epitome of just class, and I like that she takes risks. Obviously, I would push her maybe to be even a little bit more, I hate the word risque, but, to kind of push it even more with the drama. I've had a lot of our jewelry placed along, different royals, but not yet a moment, especially, like, in a fabulous hat moment, because no one can wear a hat like she can,
Oh,
you know?
beautifully.
I mean,
Beautifully.
they're also just iconic.
Who do you collaborate with for your millinery?
So for our millinery, we've worked with this amazing woman named Vivian Lake. I've worked with her since season 2 of Harris Reed. We've done every Met, from the Iman headpiece people have seen to, the one I wore at, not this last Met, but the Met before with Demi Moore. Always with her, because I think she's always been I'm a huge on yes people, even though in this business you have to learn to say no. So I'm kind of giving contrasting, kind of words here, but she's always been the one where I'm like, I want a 3 meter by 3 meter hat. We need it in 2 weeks. It's for, was it Cardi B's music video? We need them in 3 different colors. Okay, no problem. So for me, the ability for her to always be able to make it happen. Like, obviously, I love Stephen Jones. I have deep respect for the old guard in the millinery field, but there's not a lot of new milliners that are kind of, like, building too many I feel like it's a hard market, and I feel like it's such an extraordinary
Yeah.
craft, and there's so many people that I see at the Sarah Band Foundation or kind of other, students, but then to actually build a millinery business right now is quite tough. So I feel like for me, I've always been, me and Vivian, like, on every project, she's like my go-to girl.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, today we're going on a personal style journey.
Okay.
So talk me through your look today.
I'm wearing Bella Freud.
Now, is that custom or is
Off
that
the rack.
off the rack?
From her lovely store on, it's Chilton Street, I believe. I just love her. I've just always loved the way she speaks about everything. Again, my interior obsession. Like, I remember watching her, I feel like it's a Vogue 73 object video. Just like, there's so much, like, I don't want to say the word poetry, but there's just so much kind of conversation in all the pieces that she does, and I feel like I've always when I'm traveling, I have a Bella Freud suit with me, which my husband laughs because he's like, "You literally make suits at Harris Reed and in a Ricci," but I'm like, "Darling, no, but like, I'm obsessed with fashion. Like, I have to have it." And I think it's just really easy. And days like today, where I was just saying earlier that, I went to bed at 4 a.m. because the Eurostar was a
I am
nightmare.
in
And
awe of
woke
you
up this
being
morning,
here.
I just was like, I think when you throw on a 3-piece suit, I have my hair wet from the shower, I've thrown on some BB cream, and I think I look pretty okay. And it took me
You
5
look
minutes.
amazing. And there
So-
was this sort of panic note from the, that
from my
came
lovely
through.
team that was
Yeah.
like, I was like, "Are we filming today?" They're like, "Oh, we're doing some stuff." I was like, "But she's gonna look so good as she literally looks today." I was like, "I can't compete with this."
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, Bella Freud. We love Bella Freud. And then shoes are a Saint Laurent boot from a couple years ago that I have about 18 pair of, which sounds excessive, but I wear the heel down. I have them in every different shade of black, which I think you'll appreciate being in this beautifully kind of different shades of black apartment. So I have them in patent, I have them in normal, I have them in like a weird burgundy black, like.
Now, are those, sorry for asking, but are those the men's ones?
These I was lucky were the men's ones, and they're the runway ones. So they're actually high enough, because as we were bonding over earlier, like, when you commercialize something, it's the worst part of fashion. Like, I'm sorry to anyone that like sees something on the runway and then you put it on and you're like, "Oh, this has less fabric or less fringe or less oomph." But you can talk to the commercial department. But these boots, they kept them at a crazy height, which is why they've stopped them, because they were like quote unquote men didn't want them this high. So I bought all of them.
Did you bulk buy?
Yeah, I bulked.
Did you sort of knew that was going to...
No, this is the only boot. I wear this, and then there's an incredible shoemaker by the name of Roker that I do all my shoes with Harris Reed with. They're fantastic. They are a little bit higher, and as someone who has recently moved into our first apartment we redone, I have a kind of a massive beam that we couldn't move. So in those shoes, I smacked the living shit out of my head. Sorry for my language. So I moved down to the Saint Laurent runway boot because I mean, the day before my wedding, I was wearing them before we flew out, and I smacked my head so hard I hit the ground
Ow.
and had a slice right across my forehead. I had to put extensions really low across my forehead line so you couldn't see it. It was shout out to having a really good stylist because it was horrible. Anyway, so be cautious when you're wearing heels.
Right. And jewelry,
Mm.
because you've got this amazing
It's
jewelry.
all vintage. It's always so funny because I always have dinner with people, and especially people that, I'm meeting, like my husband's friends. He works more in technology, and they're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a fashion designer, jewelry designer." They're like, "Oh, is any of this yours?" And I'm like, "Nope, none of it's mine."
And how much is fine and how much of it is paste? And
I would say it's 50-50. And I love that you knew. Yeah. A lot of people are like, "Oh my God, that's a lot of diamonds." I'm like, "Darling, that's a lot of paste as well." Like, I also think it's funny because I buy a lot of like cocktail rings and people are like, "Oh, that must be a fortune." I'm like, well, it's actually not because it's half paste, half diamonds. People aren't buying, everyone's buying a little bit more. Like they want it like an infinity band. They want everything to be very kind of dainty. So especially like Portobello Market, Gray's Antiques, where's the other one that was really good? Spitalfields Market, sometimes when they do the pop-ups of jewelry, I think on Thursdays, or Ladbroke Grove, like you can actually get quite amazing pieces. And also a lot of these were like 29th birthday gift, 27th birthday gift, my engagement ring. But it's my obsession. I also think it's like, it's what I get. If I could do just jewelry, like I think I would probably, which I could, but so I can't say that. I do love fashion, but I do just get so excited by the possibilities because you can just do so much.
Can we not have a Nina Ricci fine jewelry?
I mean, this season at Nina Ricci, which I think, without saying too much, we have our new jewelry designer. She's extraordinary. She just came. We kind of poached her from another big couture house, and she's working on kind of these incredibly detailed pieces that, to your point, they're at the moment just kind of in like a fake pave. But I'm kind of trying to push to see if we could do like a fine jewelry.
Oh, yes.
So everyone buy the jewelry so we can do some fine jewelry.
Now, you grew up in the States.
Yeah.
First in Arizona,
Mhm.
and then your mother took you to LA. Were you very exposed to fashion at a young age?
I mean, I would say Nordstrom Rack was my fashion haven. I feel like people who don't know, Nordstrom is a huge department store in the States. Nordstrom Rack is kind of like, what is it? Like the outlet, basically. Yeah, the outlet for them. And I feel like everywhere we moved to always had a Nordstrom Rack, and it'd be where you would have like that one Gucci bag on the top shelf or that one Versace piece. And like, I remember just being like there every weekend. Especially at the jewelry counter, like Constantino is this designer I'm obsessed with that was really big in America that I believe is Greek. And everything was always with like little, I don't know, just jewel tone colors and way too much metal work. And actually quite like my designs, quite like cagey and like it always quite sculptural. And I remember just like sitting at that counter, always just being like, "Can I see this? Can I see that?" And the woman knew I was not going to buy it. I was like 11 years old, any of it. But I would say that was kind of my fashion. My parents, when I was younger as well, and came out as being gay at 9 years old. And I'm so
9 years old.
yeah. I guess I just walked up to my mom. I don't fully remember it, but at a dining table and I was like, "Mom, I'm gay." And she's like, "Okay, sweetie." And the next day she's like, we're leaving Arizona. I think she put the house on the market the next day. She lost a fuck ton of money on that house. So thank you, Mom, for being amazing and moving us into that apartment rental in LA.
She moved you because she was concerned about
Just of safety. I think we, even I talk about in the book that like I wrote was like, I remember again, I was probably 9, 10, 11, like in Arizona when like teachers like parents started asking for their kids to be taken out of my class because I was like quote unquote openly gay. What does that look like? But had I guess those things that, if you're a bit effeminate, then you're also gay, which is also doesn't mean at all that you're gay. But I had these kind of like things that parents saw that were like, "Oh, we don't want our kid to, catch the gay." I don't know what that means, but I remember like,
I love that.
catch the gay because you can catch it, you guys. You can totally catch it.
Highly infectious.
Exactly. And I think my mom is just like that. And on the fact that I think like I love psychology, and I think I kind of maybe I didn't fully was aware I was doing at the time, but I was, always wearing like a bright pink top, or I was wearing my mom's boa from Halloween to school. And I think my mom just started getting worried about safety because it's one thing for kids to start like saying things and pushing. It's another thing to obviously like, start getting beat the fuck up.
Yeah.
So, and I had friends that would happen to. So I was super fortunate that didn't happen to me. So I think she was like, my dad was still in LA. My parents split up when I was quite young. She was like, "We're going back." Lost a lot of money on that house. And from that moment on, she was always renting because like the market, I think it was also 2008 when the kind of market completely crashed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so no school uniform.
No school uniform. So I was super lucky on that front.
Fantastic.
Which I know is a bittersweet one. Some people love it because it just kind of makes everyone unified. I would hate it because I'm just like, need to push the boundaries. And even back then I was wearing like really crappy platform boots from a Halloween costume. So
were you conscious of being I mean, that sounds silly, but were you conscious of being bullied, or did you
Oh yeah,
care?
100%.
Did you care?
I care way too. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I would actually wanted to ask you this if you like, because people are always like, oh, you must not read anything. You must not care. This is more now speaking to reviews, to people's commentary on clothing. But I remember back then, like, especially when I'd be wearing quite, I love what I'm saying, a man in a pink shirt's outlandish. But I guess being 9 years old, wearing a pink Izod or a Lacoste shirt on the playground and like, I don't know, glittery like Converse or Havaianas with little like kind of fake pave kind of things on them was like crazy. But like, I definitely cared way I don't say way too much, but we're kids. Like kids are so
Yeah.
insecure, but also kids can be so mean because it's that time where like you're just trying to fit in. So everyone's trying to throw anyone else under the bus for being
Mm.
different. So I think I definitely, developed a thick skin. I think a lot of that as well was like why I think I'm where I am today at well, I'm not that. I just turned 29 and it feels young as maybe I would say when I was doing this if I was 26. But being young for what I'm doing is I think I just had a thick skin. I knew who I was. I was like, I'm not willing to sacrifice any of that and take it or fucking leave it. And I think that came from just being that kid that just didn't have a lot of friends, hung out with my mom a lot, hung out with my mom's friends a lot. I think also that gave me the ability to express myself and have maybe a more, I don't want to say better vocabulary, but just being able to kind of speak.
But more of an adult approach to
Yeah,
life.
I think so. And a more of a
Fascinating.
realistic approach to life. Because I even remember being like 11 is when I painted an Eiffel Tower in my bedroom in Arizona. And my mom was like, what is this for? She's like, I was like, I'm moving to Paris and I'm gonna be a creative director when I'm older. And I was 9. And now I live half time in Paris and I
I
guess I
mean,
creative direct, whichever that means.
extraordinary confidence. Would you put that confidence down to what?
Oh my God, what a great question. I would say it was just a little bit of like, I have nothing to lose in a way. I think I think without getting too deep into it, I've had like so many people, a lot of deaths in their family and things like this. And I think from a young age, my uncle was actually murdered. But we're not have to go into this, but it was quite like I was quite young and I've then obviously just had the normal things of grandparents dying quite young. And I think for me, death became this thing where at any moment something can just be done and over. And I think from a young age, again, very much a big listener, very much always kind of liking to absorb everything. I was like, life is so short. Fuck it. I'm just going to do it my way and just keep going. And I think my dad always told me, which is so Hollywood of him. He's like, darling, nobody knows anything. If you just keep saying you're the best, but at some point, it might take 20 fucking years, they'll believe it. And I think obviously have that with a giant scoop of humble bloody pie. But I think it's kind of true. And I remember even coming to university in London and I would always laugh because I would, be presenting all my work with my other kind of English counterparts and they would be there like, oh, I don't know if it's good. I'm not sure. And it was extraordinary, the things that they were showing. And I was there with my subpar and my insecure fashion kid mind kind of project. But I was there in my new Tom Ford jacket I bought from the charity shop the night before, hair blown out, makeup on, being like, this is the best thing you've ever seen. You got to love it. My teachers were like, whoa, you're way too much. But I was like, but I'd always say to them, but if I don't believe in it, who else is going to believe in it? Especially in the saturated business of kind of broken dreams. So I think I always had that mentality that you have to believe what you're doing is, again, I don't want to say extraordinary, but it has purpose.
Yeah.
Which I think, which is that would tied into the fluidity, into the upcycling, into all these other things. I wasn't just like, I'm an amazing designer because I'm such an insecure person and I constantly question and challenge myself and push myself. But you have to have that innate, like, no, I deserve to be at the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the table. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, tech people.
Now, do you remember that light bulb moment of this dress, this top, these boots, whatever, have transformed how I feel about myself?
Yes. I think there's like two instances. I think there's the one where I can remember super clearly at like 9 years old, which just sounds like all the old guard designers talking about fashion. But remember like taking the curtains from the guest room, like in Arizona, and just like starting to quote unquote, I didn't even know it was draping, but draping it on my sister. And I was safety pinning, I was duct taping all these bits together. And I can actually have the photo somewhere. And I remember I turned back and I was like, oh, that's not bad. And I remember having this moment where I was like, oh, I could do something with cloth. I could do something with kind of, I remember I always said I wanted to be a dresser upper because at the same time as doing that, I was going through the Halloween box and then my mom's closet and putting on her like strappy Stuart Weitzman sandals up to my knee and then putting on like the big witch hat from Halloween, which is I think why I'm obsessed with these big brimmed hats and putting on like, my dad's over like coat, like Armani exchange blade. I don't know, like blazer. Like, so I think I was obsessed with like I guess at the time I thought I maybe would want to be more of a stylist because I loved kind of clashing components together. But then I think from that side bit of me draping my sister in like curtains at 9, I was like, oh, maybe this is what I could do. Um, so I would say probably that.
And then a moment when you put something on yourself.
Mm. I would say it probably was first year at Centre St. Martin's. I was in the fashion foundation, which is the kind of the 1 year you do before you get into the bachelor's. I mean, I was there for 5 years. It's crazy. I feel like how many different things you can do there, but it was an extraordinary time. And I was going out for a night out with friends. I was going by they, them pronouns at the time. I was really kind of like coming from kind of modeling part-time, which is also helping me pay my bills. And like, I remember it was when androgyny was really the hot thing to say about everyone. So I was booking all these kind of random jobs and they were putting me in red lipstick and a skirt because they were like in their 50s. No offense to anyone in their 50s, but they had this preconceived idea that androgyny just meant like a man with like lipstick with long. It was very like I was like, no, androgyny can be anything for everyone, but that's a whole side conversation. But I remember I was going out with friends and I had nothing to wear. And I was like, okay, I have 4 hours and I couldn't find anything. I was kind of freaking out. And I remember I sewed together this like pink lame flares and this kind of, I guess you could say pussy bow, kind of very, very actually regal blouse with these big ballooning sleeves, which is now actually on permanent display at the Victor and Albert Museum. And I wore that and I posted a photo of myself in the mirror drinking some really, I can't say skanky, but skanky kind of drink in a can from like the corner shop. And that was the image that like Alistair Mackey, Katie England, people started pulling this look for shoots. But sorry, that's a whole separate conversation. But I remember looking in the mirror and it's actually funny. I had my hair slicked back in that picture. And I think that was probably one of the few times I've ever had my hair really slicked back. And it was really just about the outfit.
Yeah.
And I was wearing these silver Balenciaga platforms that I saved up so much for. I was eating literally like the little 24 pack of eggs for like a couple months at a time so I could get these boots. I was literally eating like nothing, which is horrible, but that's another conversation. But I got these boots and I had that look on and I looked in the mirror and I was like, this is me. And I think that was a big moment.
That's lovely.
Way too
Love
long of a
that.
story, but that was I had to think about that actually
Yeah.
because I feel like there was several little moments, but I would say that's the moment because it was like pins still hanging out the back seam. This is me, and I love that look then kind of started so much for me.
And would you say that was really the start of your silhouette?
100%. I think it was whether I knew it or not, that was my like Dior bar jacket. That was like,
Yeah.
I will always do a pussy bow and flares. No matter how much I can push it with Demi Moore on the Met Gala steps, the customer is going to come to the Harris Street brand and want a pussy bow and flare as at least the kind of the starting point.
Yeah. Now, not many designers can claim that their first client was someone as globally famous as Harry Styles. A, how did that connection come
Yeah.
about? And B, more importantly, what did you wear for that first meeting?
Oh my God, it was such a fun outfit. I guess what was super wonderful, I think, was like as I was at Centre St. Martin's in my bachelor's degree, I was doing fashion design and marketing as the course. It's what I did because I didn't really fit in in the classical terms into women's wear because it was much more for women, I guess you could say. And then menswear was much more kind of Savile Row classical, which I think is extraordinary because you need those skills
Yeah.
to build, amazing fit and clothes. But I remember having tutorial after kind of presenting my work for projects. And the tutor who no longer works there would always be like, this is costume. Like, what is this? Like, I don't get it. And I remember the day I had my meeting with Harry Styles was a crit. And this teacher was like, the most you're ever going to be in your career is someone's assistant. And that's all you should hope for because this is costume. I don't get it. Like, and I remember kind of laughing and she's like, why are you laughing? And I was like, well, I have a meeting with a really important person and I'm running quite late. I need to go. And context of that meeting was Harry Lambert, the extraordinary stylist, kind of was the first real person to support me on Instagram. He started pulling my work when it was literally me glue gunning hats together. He saw this thing from the White Show, which was a thing that happens at Centre St. Martin's where I think everyone gets a couple meters of white, it's like fleece. It's really cheap fabric. And the whole point is to kind of push the limits of what you can do with all the same meters of fabric and this kind of white color. And we did the show. He saw the piece, he pulled it, and it kind of started this beautiful relationship. So he kind of over those kind of couple months kind of was like, oh, I'm working with this new client. I think he'd be great. I kind of knew it was Harry Styles, didn't really kind of fully know. But he kind of was like, just work on some ideas, references. I was looking at Jimi Hendrix. I was looking at David Bowie. I was looking at Mick Jagger. Just again, the people that I was obsessed with at that time myself. I was wearing gold leather flares, pussy bow blouses. That kind of became my uniform a year later from that pink picture in the bathroom that kind of set up what I was, if you can say that. And I think I remember went from that critique where I was told I'll never be more than assistant, went to the Apollo in Hammersmith. I remember I was wearing silver leather flares with white silk pouring out the bottom, kind of on the side seams. I was wearing like a Dior, no, sorry, it wasn't Dior. It was a Gucci blouse that I bought from Oxfam, but it was the one that employees wear. So on the label where it says Gucci, it says employee in bigger letters. So it's that classic beige that everyone was wearing during Frida and Tom Ford's era. I was wearing that. And then this fox fur, red floor length fur, fox isn't fake, like faux, not fox, faux fur red coat that was floor length. And I remember just wearing that with a lot of eyeliner on, and I had like kind of my shortish, long, messy blonde bobby kind of hairstyle. And I remember getting to like the Apollo, and I was like, "Oh my god, wait, where do I go?" And I remember just walking up to this woman, and I was like, "I'm here to see Harry Styles," and she was like, "Yeah, so is everyone else." And I was like, "I'm his designer." And I remember she kind of looked me up and down. And I was like, "Okay," and then like led me back, and everyone was like, "Who is that? Who is she? Who are they? Where are they going?" And kind of going back. And I remember I was kind of greeted by the team, had my first meeting with Harry and Harry. And it just went really amazingly. I had like a crayon in my bag, and I was literally drawing on my little sketch paper, and it was just really wonderful. And I think I really hold that whole experience really dear to my heart, because I think if I didn't have that moment with him, God knows where my brand would be now. I think I would have hopefully worked with other people, but before that point, I was only really doing editorials. So Solange, Troye Sivan, even Beyonce, that was all just more editorial kind of work. And some, as you know, some stuff that never comes out, some stuff that does. 4% of it probably is what actually comes out. I think people don't see that stuff. And so I think that moment was just huge because, I landed a huge global client, and people saw those clothes. And, from Instagram following to, matches, my only ever order I did do because I love Natalie Kingham was, with matches. And that all kind of came from, them seeing a man in a pussy bow blouse and a flare with like, I think I even did him in the same almost flares I was wearing. It was like he worked the Amsterdam show, black tailoring wool, like cream silk coming out, and like kind of a cream piratey blouse. And there was a validity there that people stopped calling me the costume queer designer and just Harris Reed, the fashion designer.
And did you ever get any feedback from Natalie as to the gender of the people buying your clothes
This is a
from
great
Matches?
question. We did a pop-up at Carlos Place, which again, rest in peace, Matches. I have to
Oh,
say, we need more retailers like them, because
yeah.
she specifically supported so many, 16 Arlington, like, I mean, the list goes on, but like
Yeah.
people that she really put under her wing. And I was so blessed to know her. I think at the pop-up that we did at the iconic 15 Carlos Place, it was mostly men buying it, or people that, looked male. I should not
Yeah.
just assume, but that was kind of the feeling, which was super incredible for me. The online sales, I don't know. And this is something, I wonder if I could even ask her now. Now that I came, I'm going to call you after this. But I think that it was quite a mixed demographic, which was actually quite great.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of showed people that there was this appetite. And also, I think even after that, most of my custom was for kind of more stereotypical gentlemen. And that was really rewarding, because I loved that it could kind of go between,
Yeah. That's your
everything.
vision, really.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, lovely. Now, you interned under Alessandro Michele.
Yes.
Wow. During his Gucci tenure. What would you say was the most important lesson you learned from him?
That there's a story in every detail. I think literally being in meetings with him and the level of detail that went into the zipper, into like, it was almost like a Devil Wears Prada moment at one point. I remember they had like trays of like rhinestones all in different shades of blue. And it was almost like they're all so different, but they all, to the untrained eye, kind of look like the same shade of blue. And it was like that scene where they're holding up the two belts and they're like, it's cerulean and lapis or whatever. And like, but it was just like he had so much care and consideration. And I think I've worked and I interned for so many other designers that like would go into a meeting and not give a shit about the zipper or the commercial t-shirt or the hoodie. And he cared about all of it. And not only did he care, there was a story to the tie, to the kind of the hardware. And I found that really inspiring, because I think fashion has become, I mean, it's a trillion-dollar business. It's huge. Like, it's become such a business that people forget that I only got into this because it was my salvation for myself, and it was my way of storytelling and my way of self-expression. And the more you get into paying payroll, paying your taxes, paying your PR retainer, paying your lawyer, paying the venue, paying for the shit that you didn't even know you have to pay for because you post, I remember on my website, I was posting all my amazing editorials. I was so proud. And then you get hit with a 20,000 pound bill because you don't own the rights to those images. And like, no one fucking tells you this at university. I remember being like, of course companies are going under every 5 seconds. Like, thank God I'm like, literally doing everything like besides basically showing my butthole for like, magazine, like for, sponsorships and things like that, because it's insane, all these pop-up things. But going back to that, yeah.
You need to go back to Central St. Martin's and
I want to do a
give
crash
a
course.
commercial lecture.
Yeah. Because I think it's also funny because I think people also, it's something I always found really funny is like people sometimes will say, again, I've always thought in fashion what I love is you can hate or love what I do. I think that's the best thing. I forget, I think it was Jeremy Scott told me, or famously was always like, you don't want to be, you want to be like loved or hated or something along those lines. And I always loved that because you need to have a visceral reaction to something. You cannot live in the middle. But I always love it sometimes that like people, one of the things people sometimes say is like, oh, Harris is just super rich, really rich family. I'm like, guys, like, just because, my father's in film, like, I was like, both my parents don't own their apartments. They have like, they're both paying off credit card debt. Like, I'm the first one in my family to go to finish university. Like, but I still am here, obviously dripping in my paste and my diamonds. But like, the hustle was fucking real, and no one talks about
And it
all the
continues.
behind the scenes. So, and again, I have the privileges of what I look like, of the fact that like I was educated. I have all these things that I'm not being like, I'm like self-made. But there's a bit of this thing where I always kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, you have no idea. You have no idea the like, all the also without I can't name names, but like consulting jobs you do, all the random like things that have nothing to do with fashion, just so you can pay those bills to keep the lights on, to like buy that cute Bella Freud suit and go out for a cute coffee with your husband. Like, but
I
again, I
hear
love
you.
the hustle. We're here for, I mean, I'm talking to the queen of, I say hustling in a good term of endearment, like to literally
Absolutely.
hustling and
Yeah.
making it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's that? There's so many famous sayings about, it's taken, 15 years of hard work
Yeah,
to get this lucky.
completely. And
Yeah.
also it's like a million doors can open, but if you're not ready with
Yeah.
those doors slam in your
Yeah.
face.
I often talk about how our clothes can be our armor.
Hmm.
We message through them.
Yeah.
Is this something you're really conscious of doing?
I think all the time.
Yeah.
I I think clothing gives you all the confidence in the world. I think, even putting on again this suit, I've slept really badly. I had a bit of a tiff with my husband last night because I was exhausted and jet lagged from coming back from Asia last week from a work trip. And like, but I wake up, you're running super late to do something fabulous like this, and you just put on a great suit or you put on a great pair of shoes, you put on that great necklace, like it makes you feel great, and it makes you, more importantly, feel like you have like there's a sense of purpose. Like I always, when I do a meeting with like if I have to go sit down maybe with my owners at Nina Ricci, or I have like more of an investing meeting, I always have a jacket. This is horrible. That's two sizes too small. It's women's and it has really big shoulder pads because when I put it on and I button it, it makes me sit up with this very like upright posture so I can like fit into it. And it always gives me this kind of air of confidence as I was just slouching, if anyone couldn't see me, like back comfortably in this chair. Like, so I think there's also these clothes that give you this kind of another way of holding yourself. I
Yeah.
think also, yeah,
Power.
power.
Yeah. Heels do the same.
I was gonna say heels is something that I wish I could, I have huge man feet. So I always try to like squeeze into my girlfriend's heels and like my heel is hanging way off the back. But again, that whole different posture that it gives
Yeah.
you is amazing.
Do you have a style icon?
I feel like there's so many people I'm obsessed with. I mean, I would say the one that it's not even generic because I'm just always been obsessed, but it's like a David Bowie. Like, I think when I did the Met Gala with Iman, I was just I'm not a speechless person, but I really didn't have any words, not only for who she was married to, but also for the career she had. But that's me kind of segueing. But I just I always loved the I don't give a fuck mentality of what he would wear. Like, even through the like the Dog Days to Ziggy Stardust to it was just very, this is me, get
Mm.
over it. And I
Mm.
loved
Yeah.
that idea. And I think rock and roll, I'm sure, I think also for you, like it's such an amazing, just such a good inspiration there because it's
Mm.
just like we are living for ourselves and for the people that are kind of coming to watch us and support us and be there for us. And there was just something about this kind of camaraderie of like, yeah, I'm just, wearing a woman's dress or woman's blouse or crazy, over the knee high patent leather boots. And even now I feel like we move so far forward, but then at the same time, always are taking massive steps backwards.
Yeah.
So I constantly kind of look back to his videos, to his more iconic, I guess, his interviews, or even like leaving like hotels and the shit people would ask him or say about
Mm.
him or assume, and just how he would be like, basically along the lines, but way more eloquent and way more beautifully said than what I'm saying. But like, no, this is just me. Like,
Mm.
get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you describe your style DNA in 3 words?
My style DNA in 3 words. I feel like I have to say romantic. because there's always an idea of like romance in some form. A bit rebellious, and then I would say classic, because I think it always goes back to like I love a fishtail. I love like a bit of like Savile Row men's quite traditional tailoring. I think, but there just has to be a bit of a rebellious thing. You've asked for 3 words, and I've just gone on and on. But those are my 3 words.
No, I like that. I like that.
I cannot not give it like a thing after them. I talk too much. I'm sorry, everybody. It's like an
No,
8-hour
I love
podcast.
it. I love it. You married your husband Eitan in 2023.
Mm.
Now, you had not one outfit, not two, you had 4,
I did have 4 outfits,
I believe, maybe even 5.
potentially.
How did you approach the design of those? Was it to do with how you wanted to feel? Was it to do with how you wanted to make a statement? What was your approach?
Look at these great questions today. I would say, I think it was a little bit of like, I think I never thought I was going to get married, but I think that was more queer trauma and just being told, like, you don't deserve happiness. You don't deserve to have the white picket fence and 2 dogs, but like more that thing of just a traditional base that is love. And I think for me, when my partner proposed, which was funny because I've never been surprised in my entire life. And I remember it was such a surprise down to even the proposal when we got there with the picnic blanket, the candles, the whole shebang. I still kept being like, my kind of, I don't know, queer guilt was like, oh, we need to get out of the way. Someone's getting engaged soon. Someone must be coming. This is their moment. And he was on one knee crying like, no, it's our moment. And I was like, oh, cute. You guys can't see, but I'm trying not to cry because I'm wearing a lot of BB cream. But it was just, I think when it got to the wedding and designing the looks, like I wanted like so many different weddings all in one day because I wanted to capture all the feelings. I think there was some more traditional feeling, which was more my men's kind of suit that I wore down the aisle, but then it had this 1930s veil that we stitched into the back that was like a train.
I loved that. I thought
loved that piece.
The contradiction of beautiful tailoring
Thank
and then
you.
the soft.
It felt like a good combination of like fluid to me, which
Yeah.
again is a word that can mean so much, but
Yeah.
that juxtaposition of the kind of men's
Juxtaposition,
tailoring
that's the better
and this
word.
quite like, I feel like every bride that I've ever worked with wants a train. Not everyone, of course, but
Yeah.
everyone I've worked with. And I think I wanted the train and I wanted the suit. So
Yeah.
that moment was for me kind of my classic moment. And then we went to kind of, then I wanted to be corseted in. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to sit down. We went into that, which was more kind of like romantic, a bit gothic, a bit more punk with the velvet. Then we went to the Nina Ricci for the sit down dinner, which was almost my Grace Kelly moment. And it had this off the shoulder, but we turned it into a top and trousers because as a jumpsuit or a dress, it was just a bit too complicated. And then I ended it in this kind of like crystalled, barely wearing anything, naked, almost a Vegas wedding. I feel like I had all my different things. I had like, this is for the church, this is for Vegas, this is me getting eloped, this is me having 3 years of preparation. Like kind of just try to get a lot of different, I guess, like dreams into one day. And I have to say, as much as people listening to this or might comment on this, like 4 to 5 looks, are you insane? It was actually incredible because those times that I was changing with my maid of honor, like Chet, who's my best friend, he's an incredible designer, Chet Lowe, were the only times I got to really be present at the wedding. Because it's the only times the doors of the room were closed and I was just by myself processing what was happening.
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you had that gorgeous outfit for Chelsea Registry office.
Yes.
Which I loved.
I know we did a lot of weddings.
Because it was
so
all
crazy.
bias and
all bias silk, and it was like a cow neck back, and it was quite like conservative for me, I guess. And I think it was funny because we did the Chelsea Registry before the wedding in Italy just to do the legal kind of aspect of it. And also like I would always drive by, you know, on the bus, seeing everyone, again, mostly just straight couples out there with the flowers being thrown. And I was also like, I want that.
It's totally iconic,
It's
isn't
an iconic, you know, I mean, I think it was like Mick Jagger's been married, like so many insane, amazing, I think Claudia Schiffer, like iconic people were married at the Chelsea Town Hall. And I remember being like, I want that as well. But it was so funny because when I showed everyone the sketch of my outfit, which is basically like very pared back bias cut top and kind of very flowy trousers, they were like, really? Like that's it? I was like, yeah, that's it. I mean, I did, thank you De Beers, I did wear probably $30 million of borrowed diamonds, but you know, shout out to De Beers. I felt very beautiful.
But so you had your iconic on the steps of Chelsea Registry
I
office.
had my iconic steps moment. And it was sweet because everyone was honking and clapping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which feels pretty good.
Yeah. I did a bridal shoot on
Oh, did you?
Yes, because I just thought it's so iconic. It's got to be
But also
done.
the flower petals. Our entire
Yeah.
hallway of our apartment is just those pictures.
Oh, how
Which I never
lovely.
thought would be the couple to have wedding pictures in our house.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. And I want to keep taking down like our fun, crazy random paintings and putting up wedding pictures.
Gorgeous. Black and white?
Black and white.
Lovely.
Always black and white.
Lovely.
Like this apartment, very black and white.
Does your husband ever wear your designs?
That is a great question. No. He wears the jewelry, like the In Good Hands necklace that I have. He adores that. He has a solid silver one, like a one of one that he absolutely adores. Or it's like maybe it's a solid platinum one. I don't, but it's one that he has that's based just on the commercial one we have, and he wears that all the time. Design wise, no, not yet. But I also feel like I don't know if I'd want him in my clothes.
Interesting.
I like that for me, like I love that our lives are very separate, but super together.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was a key. I always dated in fashion. I always dated in entertainment. And for me, it just never worked out. Not to say that it can't happen. I have a lot of actor friends that are very happily married of like 20, 30 years and have kids, but it was just, I like that we have that separation. And even when he comes to support me for he always comes to my fashion shows, and he'll come if maybe I'm up for an award, which maybe sounds a bit twatty, but you know, something that really means a lot to me. But I like that he always looks a bit out of place, and I like that. It would be different if he just fit right in.
Yeah.
I'm saying this in a good way.
Yeah, I totally get that. Would you say you'd have had a worst fashion moment?
I mean, there's been some questionable things that I've tried wearing, kind of more, I guess, in my first couple years in London. Like, I look when I used to go out all the time to like dazed ID parties, and I was just throwing, but it was also fun. I was throwing crap together. I bought it from the charity shops that I was also sewing together. I mean, I think also, you know, there's been shows that I've done, like, you know, I think one specifically, which I know, you know, you're not meant to criticize yourself, but we did a black and white show at Harris Reed a couple years ago. And like, I wanted to just use black and white fabric because it was all upcycled. So I loved that. I was like, we are almost having zero footprint with the materials that we're using in this collection. And there's no dyeing. It was going to be amazing. And I just fucking forgot how unforgiving white silk is. And we did like, and I think, I don't want to say it was a disaster or the worst, but I would say it was the worst. The fact that like, I was just super not kind to myself or the team on making a challenge that big to build these massive sculptural pieces all in white silk, because you were going to see all the workings on the inside coming through. And like, again, was quite a successful collection in terms of orders and in terms of, you know, this iconic Naomi Campbell cover for Vogue. I forget which Vogue it was, like in the piece. So it did well, but it always bothered me because I felt like I would say more worse in my decision. I don't know. I'm sure there's something as well where like, I mean, I also, this funny, very personal thing, but I always pee myself when I'm really, really nervous. And the Met Gala, the first one I did with Iman is like, I remember getting in the car and I was so nervous because something was wrong with her dress. The car was running late. We're about to miss our slot. If anyone ever knows the Met, it's the most stressful thing in your life. And I was so nervous that I literally was like kind of peed myself, and you could see it all down my white trousers. And I remember holding a blow dryer as like Kim Kardashian, and like, every single celebrity walked by, and I was just in the lobby of the Pierre, just with like a hair dryer down my trousers. Like everyone's like, "You're right." I'm like, "Yep," just peeing myself out of pure excitement and nervousness. So that would, I guess, been my worst moments, because it was also, I think it was like Tommy Hilfiger, Tom Ford, Michael Kors, everyone I've ever looked up to walking by, being like, "I've been there. I see you. You're fine." And it was so clear that I urinated myself. I've never told anyone this, but you're so easy to talk to. So that would be a worst moment. For sure.
Oh my goodness. What is the one item of clothing that means the most to you?
I have a pair of like vintage Levi's that are flared that I used as my kind of my base for the pattern of, I guess, the first flares I ever made for myself, to then Harry Styles, to then Matches Fashion, to then every client ever. So I'd probably say those I still have. And I got them from a little vintage shop in LA, and they're from the 70s, and they're very rare because they're like the leg length is like a 34 and the waist is like a 30, which is very impossible to find in men's trousers.
Yeah.
So I'd say those, because I think they gave me so much to my career.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's something that
Do you still wear them?
I still have them. I don't fit into them anymore because I was 18, 19 when I got them. They just, I mean, I've worn them with like a belt and a long blouse because the zipper is completely like 6 centimeters apart. And I refuse to change them because I just love that one day I want to frame them when I have a bigger, you know, I love my home, but if I have, you know, bigger than a 1 bed flat, like, you know, we'll have them up on the wall somewhere. But I would say those.
Oh, I love the idea.
Levi's don't come for me. They were vintage.
I can see that. I can absolutely see them in a thick frame.
Thick black frame.
Love that.
Gorgeous glass.
I love that. Let's talk about travel.
Yeah.
Do you pay particular attention to your travel look?
Oh, yeah. My husband always laughs at me because I've never, ever in my life worn like sweats and a t-shirt to the airport. I always wear a three-piece suit, full face done, hair done. And it's always funny because like until Nina Ricci as well, like I was always traveling coach everywhere. Like, even to the Met Gala, I remember texting Demi Moore. She's like, where's my look? Where's the look? And I was like, oh, it's on my lap in economy. She was like, wait, what? What? Like, and she was in a sweet way, but she was just so, I think people get so like, I was never traveling, really first. I would only go business if it was like a work trip. So my husband always laughed at me is why do you do this? But it's always because if you look fabulous at the airport, we almost always got led into the like kind of fast track or we got kind of upgraded. Like, I don't know. I just feel like my favorite ever pictures are, especially for inspiration, are most likely like Mick Jagger and Bianca Jagger at the airport or Jerry Hall at the airport or like old school, like Audrey Hepburn at the airport. Like that idea of dressing up, because obviously it was a huge deal back in the day. Like I love that. And even on the plane, I'll always switch into pajama or I'll switch even again, like we flew economy to Miami a couple of weeks ago because the tickets were just outrageous. And I was wearing like my Olivia Von Holly silk gorgeous pajamas and a robe on the plane, like when I got on and everyone was like changed into it. I was like, what are you doing? But I don't know. Clothes make you feel fabulous,
Oh, I
you
love
know?
that. What do you wear on the beach?
Beaches are hard. I mean, I'm a
Because
black Speedo always, and then I always am wearing something quite almost what you're wearing. Like I wear a really flowy blouse and a really flowy trouser, and I most always keep them on. I don't know. I love being naked. Like my favorite thing to do is when I come home is like again, like you like watch jewelry, clothes. My hair is tangled in with my extension and a neck. Like I like to just take everything up and take everything off and put my hair up. But I think at the beach, I'm always kind of wearing some kind of caftani. I'm dressing like I'm 70 years old and retired in Palm Springs. That's, I guess, my vibe. Some old Emilio Pucci. Yeah.
I talk about hair for a
Yeah.
second. So natural color?
Not so it's actually hysterical because when I moved to London, I kind of my mother's Mexican American, so she has quite dark chocolatey hair. My father's English, so he has very kind of blonde pale hair. And I remember my hair was always blonde, and as I got older, it was becoming more like I guess like a light brown. And I remember when I was starting kind of to start designing, I met this hairstylist, Pete Burkle, who still cuts my hair today. He works at Josh Wood. And he was always like, girl, you needed a more iconic hair color. And I remember being like, okay, he's like, Josh needs to do your hair. And I remember laughing, being like, babe, I'm a student. I can't afford the iconic Josh Wood. He's like, well, what if he does it for you? And he's like, okay. And so I remember he called me, he's like, Josh has an availability before the Burberry show or something. Like, it's going to be 7 hours. We're going ginger, go big or go home. And I was like, fuck yes. And this must have been 5-6 years ago. And we went ginger and I've never looked back. So I've kept it. But it's weird though, because even my eyebrows start growing a little bit ginger now and my
Well,
roots are
that
gotten
was
a bit ginger. It's like, I don't know if I might be talking absolute out my ass, but I feel like my whole coloring is moved towards ginger. And like I have Scottish heritage on my dad's side. Like maybe there's something like even my facial hairs are looking a bit ginger, but I was brown.
you're a very convincing redhead.
Thank you.
Sometimes when people change their hair
Yeah.
color, it doesn't sort of work with their skin
With their
and
skin.
but
I think it works.
yeah,
I mean, I love
totally.
like everyone who works with me. It's like, don't tell me when you're a fake redhead. I'm like, guys, I'm too honest. But yeah, it's
Now you mentioned extensions.
so hair is naturally very long. After the second Met, I got extensions, which was also Pete Burkle's idea. Fell in love with them because I just loved that I felt like Botticelli's Venus. And also as someone who does a lot of shoots and stuff, I like that they also kind of protected my hair because it's like an extra layer of fake hair with your hair. So right now I have a little bit in. Most of it is really my hair, but I love a cheeky extension.
And in terms of beauty,
Yeah.
do you have beauty rituals? Are you very good at looking after yourself?
I would love to lie to you and be like, "Hi, Vogue. These are my 73." I mean, no, I'm literally like, thank God for the Charlotte Magic Cream. Thank God.
Oh my God, that
I
magic
live.
cream.
I mean, shout out to Charlotte Tilbury. Shout out to Dr. Barbara Sturm. I love between both of them. I literally would say like, I would say Saturday, Sunday, I do the thing where like I actually like do a clean shave. I'll go on my hyaluronic acid. I'll do my Charlotte Tilbury magic cream. I'll do the Charlotte Tilbury kind of concealer sticks. I do my kind of like Augustinus Bader's eye cream. Like I do the full shebang, but realistically, I'm not going to bullshit you. It's literally like Kevin Murphy dry shampoo. It's like whatever like like cheap hair oil I buy in the airport because I'm always over on my toiletry bag. So I'm always just buying whatever the cheapest one is. And then like magic cream and like a BB cream, which is most likely from Charlotte Tilbury.
And then manicure.
And then manicure. The manicure I would say is the most important part.
How often?
Probably once every 2 weeks. And I do acrylics. I used to not do acrylics, but because as much as I'm not sitting there sewing every piece anymore, I still am touching everything. And I'm
Yeah.
still the first one to grab the pins. And I would always fuck my nails up so badly.
And those don't get in the way of the pins.
I mean, the great news is if the pin can't go through them, because a lot of needles were going through my nails.
Ow.
I know.
Stop it.
I know. But I'm also very like, I still have this like quick approach to everything. So I was also like, I'm not the most delicate of hand. So I kind of jab myself a lot.
And then pedicure?
Some pedicure like a couple times, probably like once every 3 months. I mean, we live in the UK and my feet look so ugly from the tight boots I wear because I have quite wide feet and I'm never not in a heel. So they're not the prettiest feet. Don't look too careful if you see me on a beach, people.
You're in a boot, so I can't even look. Quickly on to your approach to sustainable fashion.
Yeah. So for me, sustainability, it's really funny because it was just kind of a way of how we have to work, not let's make I don't want to say, I mean, a lot of people do it for PR, but like, it's cool and hot right now to be sustainable. For me, it was more just like, we're doing made to measure clothing. We're doing limited drops. We're working with clients that, we have sometimes longer lead times. We have to be sustainable. So it kind of started with that, where I was like, using Nanosource, which if people don't know about, it's this incredible LVMH, I believe, set it up. It's all dead stock fabrics from Fashion House.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You have to be quick because if you find something in the morning, you don't take it by the nighttime, sometimes it's gone. But we kind of started doing that. And then it became more of an obsession. And I think the last couple seasons, we worked with Fermentel where we used dead stock archive wallpapers from them. And we literally gave them a second life, making them into clothing. The season before, or the season after that, sorry, we used kind of all old curtains, tapestries, kind of old things from around the house we bought off of Etsy, eBay, things like this. So I like to challenge ourselves. Even like one of our clients, Natasha Pulawalia, she's an icon. She bought a piece from us and the whole thing was made from 17th century tablecloths. And I loved it because everyone thought, we did all this kind of hand crochet work. And I was like, no, it was literally the person I bought it from is either going to toss it out or it was a bit moth eaten here and there. And we kind of, pattern cut it to perfection, hopefully, to make it really beautiful. So for me, I think we always make more beauty under constraint.
Yeah.
And I think actually when you have too much freedom, sometimes you almost have too much option. So I've always loved with Harris Reed that, we do 10 to 14 looks in the shows and we always try to come up with a new angle and even, I shouldn't say, but whatever for the season. Again, we're working with Fermental and using kind of different like material. And I just think it's more interesting. I think it pushes us. And even at Nina Ricci, it's been a big push for me of how we can look at that. Again, I've only in coming to year 3. So Nanosource for us is big. Trying to find this. It's harder when you're making bigger volumes, as you know. But it's constantly pushed. Even with Misoma, it's all recycled metals that are then dipped into gold. So any project I do, there has to be a level of this because, look at the state of the world, look at the pollution of fashion. I also don't know how to do anything other than make fashion. So if I'm going to make fashion, I need to be ethically responsible as much as I physically can.
Yeah. Love that.
Hard.
Love that. Do you buy vintage, don't you?
Vintage is mostly what I buy.
And favorite haunts for that?
I mean, I live in West London. We mostly stayed in West London because Portobello Market is my kind of go-to. I think most people, if you want to find good vintage, Ladbroke Grove Market on Friday mornings is divine. Thursday or Friday, I need to double check that, but Google it. It's amazing. Friday, thank you. Of course, with the expert of it, the clothing icon herself. I think, I always just say buy what you love, buy what excites you. I also think people don't realize, I shouldn't say this because obviously I'm like, please buy my clothes. But if you find a gorgeous vintage piece, it's something interesting about it, it doesn't fit you, just take it to a good tailor. Like I always tell people if you want something, I'm so anti-trend and I think people come to me hopefully because I don't follow the trends. I think, buy that weird waistcoat, buy that weird jacket and, you can get someone to make it quite affordably. So I would just say buy what you love. Always haggle. Always bargain and also build good relationships. Like I've built so many good relationships with people and then you'll get a good price on something because they know you're going to keep coming back. So that, and then obviously if you're on a train or a plane like me, Etsy, obsessed with Depop. My sister got me addicted to Depop. eBay, huge eBay fan. eBay's like really hot again.
Yeah.
I'm really into eBay. eBay's having a big resurgence, Vestiaire, but I'm kind of going back to eBay because I love those old school days of like bidding.
Yes. And the excitement.
And the excitement when you get it. Exactly. Yeah. Now you can use all their modern tools and you can like set like your cap and your limit. You don't actually have to sit behind your laptop and do it. But
Right, we are going to spin on some quick fires.
Yes, quick fire.
Quick.
Quick.
Fires. Fashion advice you'd give your 20-year-old self.
Take more fucking risks because you're going to get there in the end.
Which fashion trend or era would you most like to see make a comeback?
I mean, I have to say, it's not that interesting with the 70s. Bell bottoms, always.
Fashion or beauty trend you'd consign to room 101.
Contour, I guess.
Last impulse buy.
This ring on my finger that I didn't need.
Views on tattoos.
I have to say, they're fabulous on the right person. My husband is tatted to the nines and I have not a single tattoo.
Grooming or well-being treatment you couldn't give up.
Grooming. Hair. Like I would say my kind of like very mummy cute, like I like a blowout. A good blowout.
High end or high street.
I know I said I don't like trends, but I'd probably say high street.
Crocs, cute or puke.
Oh, I'm sorry. Puke unless they're the Simone Rocha ones.
Gazelles or sambas.
Gazelles.
Sports luxe or rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Cashmere or cotton.
Oh, I love cashmere. But not in England where we have moths.
Too many. Cargos or chinos.
Neither.
I knew you were going to say that. Trilby or Tracy.
Tracy.
Trend or style.
Style.
Color or monochrome.
Oh, that's so hard. Monochrome for life, color for the big event.
Plain or print.
Both.
Hoarder or editor.
Editor.
Charity shop or resale.
Charity shop. Give back to a good cause.
Briefs or boxes.
Nothing. Cheeky.
Cheeky.
More because I forget to pack my pants.
Too much information.
No, but you'll find me. I do wear underwear. You'll find me in every. I go from Paul Smith to Ted Baker. My underwear drawer is actually hysterical. You can see all the different countries I've been to. It's like off-market turkey brand sometimes.
And finally, my traditional last question at the end of the day: what do you or don't you wear in bed?
My Olivia Von Holly pajamas because it makes me feel like royalty.
Love that. Love that. Harris, what a privilege, what a joy to have this
Thank
wonderful style
This was
conversation.
lovely. And I've learned so many new words. Feel more
Fantastic.
English by the second.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.